Hello and welcome to another Every Tuesday tutorial. In this week's tutorial, I'm going to walk you through my favorite lettering supplies for font making. So some of you might already know that I teach a comprehensive course on converting your hand lettering into working sellable fonts, and that course is reopening next week for the last time this year. So I thought it would be fun to walk you through my favorite supplies if you'd like to try out some new lettering supplies, or if you'd like to get started early with creating that lettering that you'd like to convert into a font. So this post is all about the hand-done version versus, you can always create your initial lettering that you'd like to create a font out of later on an iPad. But if you are more about the hand-done, hand-lettered version on paper, then this video is just for you. So it really doesn't matter what your experience level is with lettering because different styles of fonts are always in demand. It all depends on what the buyer is looking for their specific need. And there's so many styles that can accommodate different applications. So don't let your experience level hold you back from creating and selling fonts. So I want to walk you through what my favorite lettering supplies are and my recommendations if you're a beginner, if you're more of an intermediate letterer, or if you're more of an advanced letterer. So I'm going to give you my recommendations and kind of show you what they all look like, and links to everything mentioned in this video are right in the video description. So just hit that link and you'll have access to everything that's mentioned here. So I'm going to start off by talking about what my recommendations are for beginner letterers. These are really great because they allow you to practice your upstrokes and downstrokes really well. You can see that consistency right away because the tips are more flexible on these brush pens, so you can achieve that high contrast between your upstrokes and your downstrokes. Okay, so if you are super new to lettering, this would be my recommendation. It is a Prismacolor brush tip marker, and why I recommend this one is because you can get those really, really high contrast upstrokes and downstrokes. So the tip is extremely flexible, probably one of the most flexible tips that I've seen in a brush tip marker versus a brush pen. So there's a few different variations there and you'll be able to see those comparisons very soon. So with the Prismacolor, it's cool because you can use it just like a regular marker. So if I just write out Prismacolor, not trying to be fancy at all, you can just write it like a regular tool, or you can really utilize the flexible tip and you can press down for really heavy downstrokes, or your upstrokes, or some of your curves if you'd like to add more variation and just have it be more like all heavy downstrokes and then the supporting elements of the letters just be nice and thin. You can do that too. So that's what this would look like. If you'd like to practice more traditional lettering with your upstrokes and your downstrokes, so you always want your upstrokes to be the same weight and you always want your downstrokes to be the same weight. And your downstrokes are always going to be a heavier weight than your upstrokes. So you're going to apply more pressure on your downstrokes than your upstrokes. So this is what that looks like. So you can see there's a lot of consistency with the downstrokes, and all the upstrokes are much thinner, so you can see that really high contrast that makes the lettering really beautiful. So this Prismacolor brush tip marker gives you a lot of flexibility, a lot of options if you prefer to just keep it like a mono weight throughout, or if you want to try something a little more creative with just having all of your extreme downstrokes and all of your supporting elements of your letters be thinner, or if you want to go the more traditional route with your downstrokes and your upstrokes. So this allows you a lot of practice. So as a beginner, you can really improve your skills super fast because you can see the contrast between those strokes. They're extremely obvious, so you'll know right away where you need to practice. So that is my #1 recommendation for beginners. If you'd like another option, I would recommend the Tombow Fudenosuke soft tip brush pen. So this tip of this brush pen is much shorter than the Prismacolor. You can see right here. So it's just as flexible, but because it's not quite as long, you're not going to get as heavy of a downstroke, but you're still going to get some nice consistency from it. So I'll show you what that looks like. So you can use it again, just like up here. If you want a mono weight option, you can just use it like a regular pen if you'd like. You can do this kind of more creative approach with your heavy downstrokes. And then the more traditional look for our writing would look like this. Okay, and that is the Tombow Fudenosuke soft tip. It comes in a soft tip and a hard tip, and I recommend the soft tip for beginners. So the last recommendation for beginners would be using a Pentel water brush and some Sumi Ink, because this is using kind of the same kind of style of brush marker as the Prismacolor brush marker, but now you've got a paintbrush, so you have really, really flexible bristles up here that are great for practicing that contrast between your upstrokes and your downstrokes. So what I do is I grab either a paint palette or just a plain paper plate, and then you just want to put a little bit of Sumi Ink down, and then you're just going to dip your water brush into the Sumi Ink, so get a nice heavy dosage of ink on the tip of your bristles. And this is the Pentel water brush with Sumi Ink. So I'm just going to write out Sumi. And you can see if you try and do this mono weight style right here, it's going to be a little more complex. So this isn't ideal for this type of style. So I'm just going to write Sumi. So that's the mono weight version. This is the more creative downstroke look. And then the more traditional lettered look. I've made quite a few fonts by using just a water brush and some Sumi Ink. It works really, really well. Okay, so these are all my beginner recommendations right here. So now I'm going to walk you through my 2 recommendations if you're more of an intermediate letterer. Okay, so one of the font styles that is selling really well right now is handwriting fonts. So that kind of seems counterintuitive to hand lettered fonts, handwriting fonts. What's the difference? So hand lettered fonts are more of your traditional downstroke, upstroke, high contrast looks, whereas the handwriting fonts looks more like just someone's handwriting. So it's a little sloppier, it's a little messier, and it looks like it was written a lot faster than your hand lettered fonts. So if you'd like to create one of those styles, they are very popular these days. These are my 2 recommendations for creating that style. And why I recommend these for intermediate letters is because at this point in time, you're a bit faster with just writing out your letters. So these hold up really well with faster writing, and they'll give you a little bit of weight variation as you're writing them out too. So it's not just going to be that mono weight look. You're going to get a little bit of weight variation. So it's still really interesting, but you're also going to achieve that handwriting look. So my first recommendation is this Pentel Fude Touch Sign Pen. So I'll write this out so you can see what that looks like. So you can see we do get some variation. There's even a little bit of texture where you maybe write a little too quick, which can be a really nice kind of organic touch to your entire font as well. So this is the Pentel Fude Touch Sign Pen. So my other recommendation for intermediate letters is the Tombow Fudenosuke Hard Tip Brush Pen. So we talked about the soft tip for beginners. The hard tip's really good for intermediate letters that want to create a handwriting font because the tip of the brush is much stiffer, so it holds up much better when you're writing faster. So you can see the difference between the two. You're going to get thicker outcomes, especially if you write a little bit larger. This sign pen will work really well. If you tend to write a little bit on the smaller side, like I do, I find the Tombow Fudenosuke hard tip the best for this handwriting style of fonts. So these are for intermediate letters. Okay, and finally my recommendations if you are more advanced, if you've got your handwriting down where you can create hand lettered looks, where you can create handwritten looks, and now you're looking for something different to kind of change it up, my recommendation would be trying some textured fonts. So these are my favorite 2 tools, and they're actually the same type of brush pen. They're just a thicker brush tip, depending on what you prefer. So this one's a medium tip, and this one is an extra fine tip, and these are called the Pentel Fude Brush Pens. So you have, let me show you the medium one first. You have what looks like a water brush at the end, and you squeeze the barrel. All the ink is in the barrel, so you're squeezing it out up here, but this comes out extremely textured. So I recommend these for advanced users because not only are you keeping your upstrokes and downstrokes consistent, you're also trying to achieve consistency with the amount of texture that you're introducing, because once your brush tip is starting to dry out, you need to squeeze the barrel, and you want to keep that consistency. You don't want to squeeze too much or too little, so you can maintain that textured look. So that's why it's just a little bit more advanced. You're kind of focusing on two things right here instead of just one. So this is what the medium brush tip. So this, let me show you what the comparison is. You can see how much thicker the medium is than the extra fine tip right here. So I'll show you what you get with the medium, and then I'll show you what you get with the extra fine. Okay, so that's the medium one, and then the extra fine one looks like this. So I'm going to try and introduce even more texture than with the medium. The medium has thicker bristles, so it's able to hold on to more ink longer, whereas the extra fine has way fewer bristles, so the ink leaves the bristles much quicker. So it allows you to get much more textured looks with your extra fine tip Pentel Fude Brush Pen. Okay, so you can see a pretty noticeable difference between these two brush tips, the medium and the extra fine. So once again, you're still able to get some nice textured edges with the medium, but don't expect crazy texture like you can get with the extra fine just by the nature of having fewer bristles for that ink to really soak into. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe, and don't forget to head on over to my website, every-tuesday.com, for even more design and lettering tutorials and freebies. Once again, all the links to everything mentioned in this video are right in the video description, including a sign up to get notified for the reopening of my font making course, Learn Font Making, which once again is opening for the last time this year next week. So make sure you head over there and you can check out all the details. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.